Right. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Today we are doing chapter 58, Sura Mujadila, or translated, the pleading woman, or the woman who was pleading. Although this surah is only 22 verses, but boy, it discusses a very, very serious subject. Right? So I will try and concentrate on the translation rather than the Arabic, but for the first section I want to read the Arabic. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. قَدْ سَمِيَ اللَّهُ قَوْلَ الَّتِي تُجَادِلُكَ فِي زَوْجِهَا وَتَشْتَكِي إِلَى اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ يَسْمَعُ تَحَاوُرَكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ بَصِيرٌ الَّذِينَ يُظَاهِرُونَ مِنْكُم مِّن نِّسَائِهِمْ مَا هُنَّ أُمَّهَاتِهِمْ إِنْ أُمَّهَاتُهُمْ إِلَّا الْوَلَدْنَاهُمْ وَإِنَّهُمْ لَيَقُولُونَ مُنكَرٌ مِنَ الْقَوْلِ وَزُورٌ وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَعَفُوٌّ غَفُورٌ. The operative word in that verse is يُظَاهِرُونَ. وَالَّذِينَ, the next verse, وَالَّذِينَ يُظَاهِرُونَ مِن نِّسَائِهِمْ ثُمَّ يَعُودُونَ لِمَا قَالُوا فَتَحْرِيرُ رَقَبَةٍ مِّن قَبْلِ أَن يَتَمَسَّ. That's the operative word in this verse. ذَلِكُمْ تَوْعَظُونَ بِهِ وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرٌ. فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ فَصِيَامُ. That's the next operative word. شَهْرَيْنِ مُتَتَابِعَيْنِ مِنْ قَبْلِ أَن يَتَمَسَّ. Again يَتَمَسَّ. فَلَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَإِطْعَامٌ سِتِّينَ مِسْكِينًا ذَلِكُمْ لِتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَتِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ وَلِلْكَافِرِينَ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُحَادُونَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ كُبِتُوا كَمَا كُبِتَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ وَقَدْ أَنزَلْنَا آيَاتٍ بَيِّنَاتٍ وَلِلْكَافِرِينَ عَذَابٌ مُهِينٌ. يَوْمَ يَبْعَثُهُمُ اللَّهُ جَمِيعًا وَيُنَبِّئُهُم بِمَا عَمِلُوا أَحْصَاهُ اللَّهُ وَنَسُوهُ وَاللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ شَهِيدٌ. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Verse 1. Allah indeed knows, and I'm reading a different translation, so just follow on Yusuf Ali, and if there's something substantially incorrect, let's talk about it. Allah indeed knows the plea of her who pleads with you about a husband and complains to Allah, and Allah knows the contention of both of you. Surely Allah is hearing and all-seeing. So here's a woman who comes to the Nabi, is complaining about a husband who has done certain things, and Allah responds by saying, He knows, Allah knows, He's heard, right? Now, the important factor. As for those of you who put away their wives, now, I think Yusuf Ali says divorce, right? And I have a problem with Yusuf Ali there. This whole surah, there is no process of divorce whatsoever, right? It is something that happens between the husband and wife, which is not anywhere near divorce, but very serious. Who put away their wives by likening their backs to the back of their mothers, right? They are not their mothers. Very important. Their mothers are no other than those who gave them birth. And most surely they utter a hateful word and a falsehood, and most surely Allah is pardoning and forgiving. Right? That's the second part. Now, before we carry on, if we look at chapter 33, verse 4, on the same subject, and I'll read the English. Allah has not made for any man two hearts within him, right? Nor has He made your wives, whose backs you liken to the backs of your mothers, as your mothers. Right? Under no circumstances, no matter how much you stretch the fact, your wife is not your mother, and you should never refer to her as your mother. Right? Nor has He made, okay, then it talks about, nor has He made those whom you assert to be your sons, your real sons, adopted or fostered sons. There's no technical adoption in Islam, but we're not going to go there. These are the words of your mouth, and Allah speaks the truth, and He guides to the right way. Now this concept of jihad, let me finish the verses and we can have a discussion there. And as for those who put away their wives, again a repetition, by likening their backs to the backs of their mothers, then would recall what they said. They should. Now, the husband makes a statement. What are the circumstances? Allah knows best. And those of us who are married, sometimes we reach a stage in our marital relations that we get very upset and we say things that we don't want to say or shouldn't be saying, right? And this is the most hateful thing. I mean, to tell the wife, just because I'm upset with her, or just because she doesn't want to have sex with me that evening, that night, or she didn't cook the right kind of food, or whatever the reason, right? Your back is like the back of your mother, of my mother. Finish. Now, in the early days and during the time of before Islam, that sort of thing was taken very seriously, and it ended up in divorce, in talaq. And that's why Yusuf Ali uses that terminology. But here, there's nothing about talaq. There is an issue that we need to handle. And Allah tells us how to handle it. Now, what happens? We issue that statement. Now we feel sorry. Typical husband. Now we feel sorry, right? So now you want to go back. And then Allah puts the conditions, right? And these are very, very strict conditions. So you should free a slave. First condition. If you can afford to free a slave, you should free a slave, right? And then I said, قَبْلِ أَن يَتَمَسَّا, before you touch each other, or before you resume marital relations. Okay? So that you are admonished to confirm, and Allah is aware of what you do. So this is now a withdrawal. You withdraw. Then if you cannot find somebody to free, and of course in this day and age there's a lot of slaves, a lot of people earning meager salaries, almost like slaves. But whoever has not the means, let him practice som. فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ فَصِيَامُ. Right? I'm deliberately not using the word fast. For 2 months, right? Successively, consecutively, no break. 60 days fast. Okay? Before they touch either, again, min qabli an yatamassa. Then as for him who is not able, right, then let him feed 60 needy ones, and that is in order that you may have faith in Allah and His Nabi, and these are Allah's limits, right? This is very important. Hududullah. These are the limits of Allah. We can't exceed those limits. We can't cut it. We can't have a compromise situation. It is the law of Allah and His Nabi. And these are Allah's limits. And the unbelievers shall have a painful chastisement. I'll finish the other 2 verses and we'll discuss. Surely those who act in opposition to Allah's law and His Nabi and His Rasul shall be laid down prostrate as those before them were laid down prostrate. That means the punishment is going to come, right? And indeed, we have revealed clear communications, nothing difficult about these verses, right? And the unbeliever shall have an abasing chastisement. You see how, I mean, we might think as men, so what's so serious about it? No. And we tend to think that way. But Allah says, Hududullah, these are the limits of Allah. Okay? On the day when Allah will raise them up all together, then inform them of what they did. And later on Allah says, we're going to say, Qasam Allah, I didn't do it. It's there, the verses. Allah has recorded it while they have forgotten it. Right? And Allah is the witness of all things. So what it means here in the last couple of verses that we've done, that if we don't do what Allah has commanded us to do, to cancel what we involuntarily or voluntarily said, then this is the punishment that's going to happen in the hereafter. So we don't escape in any way. Now let's look at this verse. First of all, Allah said, are we clear of the mistake that we make? Zihar. Are we clear? Do we have a doubt about it? Is there some extension or restriction about it? And Allah uses the word, if you call your wife, and it means that you are creating an atmosphere of ceasing a marital relation with her because you're angry. Right? It's no harm, she hasn't done anything wrong. But what Allah says here, they are not their mothers. Their mothers are no other than those who gave them birth. Does that sound like a contradiction? There's a similar verse somewhere else. That's why I'm asking, does that sound like a contradiction? I'll give you a tip. When Allah refers to the wives of the Nabi, what does Allah say? 33:6. Right? Verse and page 1104. What does Allah say? Loudly. The Prophet or the Nabi is closer to the believers than their own selves. And his wives are their mothers.
Yeah.
Right? They're not the blood. They didn't give. The wives of the Nabi did not give birth to us. Right? Does that sound like a contradiction? It does. What do we have to look for here? As far as the wives of the Nabi are concerned.
You can't marry
and
them.
don't tell me that they are our spiritual mothers. But then we'll spend the whole night here discussing what spiritual means.
Yeah, can I say?
But I think you're on the right track.
Yeah.
And the ladies last night were really on the ball. I'm discussing this. They were seriously on the ball. Right.
Yeah. In both cases, you can't marry your mother.
Right.
That is what Allah is telling you.
Right.
So, this is the punishment if you want to go back to your wife. The other thing is, what is to me important is the amount of value, or what you call it. The West, they say we treat our women badly, but this shows that there is a great respect for our women. That
Very
if
good.
you do things like that, your punishment is severe.
Okay, I just want to get back to the wives of the Nabi.
Yeah.
Why is it that there is a restriction about marrying them? Right?
Yeah.
If you look at the verses that deal with treatment of parents, right? And then of course, that verse that Allah goes into such details about your mother carried you for 9 months and this and that and that and that, right? But treatment of parents, you're not supposed to say oof. And when they get old while you are alive, you should lower your wings of mercy to them. All that. So there's utmost respect and care we have to practice for our own parents. Now we'll talk about mothers here. The same kind of respect we should have for the wives of the Nabi. That's the one. 2, we can't marry because it's quite possible that after the Nabi, if we marry any of the wives, they end up getting a son or a daughter, more children. Right? And that could create a political situation, which in fact it did, where there were false prophets claiming prophethood after the Nabi, after the demise of the Nabi. Imagine if there was a stepson. Just imagine that, I mean, how much more problems there would have been. So Allah obviously is aware of this thing and He put a stop. Right? So that's the difference between the two. Okay? The parents. And now, when it comes to punishment, okay, and of course, the other thing is, and what you rightly said, and if you look at, we won't go there, but page 1562 of Yusuf Ali, how to treat your wives, right? And specifically when and of course we said we're not talking about talaq here, but the process of talaq, how you should be treating your wife, the one that you're divorcing. You can't just say kick her out of the house and all that sort of thing. Right, so now we go to verse 4, right? فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ فَصِيَامُ شَهْرَيْنِ. But whoever has not the means to free a slave, he should practice siyam for 2 consecutive months, right? Fasting. Now, I think Ossie knows my stand on this question of fasting. We need to be very careful here. And one of the ladies last night, she really went to town with this thing, right? The punishment here is what? What is the punishment here? To stay hungry all for 2 months and then have sex in the night?
No, continuous.
Wait, no, I'm asking.
60
It's
days
ridiculous
continuous.
to think that.
Yeah.
That your punishment is just that fasting bit, staying hungry. In the night we're normal, like during Ramadan, in night we're normal.
No.
Right? Here it is not. Sorry, Ossie?
I think so. Maybe.
Yeah, that's not
You will love
what
it.
it's like.
Right? One of the ladies last night sent, actually, and I tended to agree with them. They said both. They said both. Right? Abstention from marital relations and you must stay hungry. You know? So, anyhow, what I'm saying here is the restriction is not keeping away from food and drink, right? The restriction is to keep away from marital relations. Now, all of us are men here. What is more difficult? The marital relations part, let's admit it. Let's admit it. I mean, 2 consecutive months?
Yeah.
Come on, guys. You know? So that is the serious thing. And then just to get clarity on this Psalm and Siyam story, right? Open to verse 19, chapter 19, verse 6. Right? 1926, sorry. 772. So Ossie, what you saying both?
No.
You're saying nothing.
2 months.
Right, 772. Allah is addressing Maryam. Right? Whatever the condition, we're not going to go into it, but Allah is addressing Maryam. And He says that, فَكُلِي وَاشْرَبِي وَقُرِّ عَيْنًا فَإِمَّا تَرَيَنَا مِنَ الْبَشَرِ أَهَدْ فَكُلِي إِنِّي نَذَرْتُ لِلرَّحْمَنِ صَوْمًا فَلَنْ أُكَلِّمُ الْيَوْمَ إِنسِيًّا. Right? Allah says, eat and drink. Telling Maryam, eat and drink. Normal. But if you come in front of these guys who want to question you and ask you and argue with you and create controversies around you, tell them, you know what, I'm in Psalm.
Fasting.
Right? Now, Allah is telling her, you eat and drink. Then He's telling her, when you come across this issue, say, I'm fasting, I'm in Psalm. Which means, the abstention part of it here is not the staying hungry part of it. Right? It's the abstention part of it. And it's a lesson for us that when we are confronted with controversial issues, instead of going ahead with arguing and shouting and screaming, take a step back. That's what it is. Abstain. Okay. So that's my understanding, but Sabit, you might have something else to say. And if you can't do that, you've got to feed. Now, you see now, every day is one. Right? So now, when you can't abstain, then you feed 60 needy or so. No? For every day, there's one you've got to pay. Right? That is an order that you may have faith in Allah. And these are hududullah, the limits of Allah. Can't change. Okay? Can I go forward?
This example obviously was used back in the day where you said people should stay.
Can we do questions?
Yeah, can we do it after?
Okay, yes, we got that.
Okay. And I'm going to now concentrate on the English because time is of the essence. Do you not see that Allah knows whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on earth? Nowhere is there a secret, now this comes to another chapter, secret counseling between 3 persons, but he is the 4th, right? No 5 persons, he is the 6th, and so on and so forth. That if we have negative secret counseling, it's very important, where it is opposed to the Nabi, something, or opposed to our leadership, or opposed to the community. Secrecy, 2, 3 of us get together and say, no, we don't like the Riyadh, we don't like Aussie, we must do something about it, get rid of them, etc., etc. So Allah says He's aware. He knows what we're doing. Right? Then He will inform them of what they did on the day of resurrection. Surely Allah is cognizant of all things. So, yeah, you guys were plotting. I mean, Asr institutes were going on so beautifully, doing good work and all that, and you guys were envious of it and you were plotting behind the scene. Right? Not allowed in Islam, Quran. Have you not seen those who are forbidden secret counsel, then they return to what they had been forbidden? To what? And they hold secret counsels, right? They make do like, we all right, we okay, man, be with you, don't worry, and then they go behind the scenes and they do the damage. And revolt and disobedience to the Nabi. Now, of course, to the Nabi at the time of the Nabi was around, but by extension, the leadership of the community. Okay? And when they come to you, they greet you with a greeting with which Allah does not greet you. Right? That's not the greeting that Allah has laid down. Right? And Muhammad Ali's notes on that is very, very interesting. The Jews used to come and greet the Nabi, not Assalamu alaikum, it says Assamu alaikum, right? May death overtake you. Right? So this is not the type of greeting that Allah has asked us to use. But even if we go there, there's a little bit of a problem. Chapter 4, verse 86. All right? Let me give you the page. 206, I think. 486. It's a very interesting verse. Read the English, somebody. Just read the English for me. 206. 86, verse 86.
When a courteous greeting is offered to you, meet it with a greeting still more courteous, while these of equal courtesy. Allah takes careful account of all things.
Right. So when a greeting is offered to you, respond with a better one. Now somebody read the Arabic. Exactly. It's not a very easy verse.
Yeah.
Right? وَإِذَا حُيِّيتُمْ bitahayyi fahayyu bi ahsana minha aw rudduha. The word salam is not used there at all. I think 90% of the people who translate the Quran have used that to say greeting, right? But the salam is not used there. And the word 3 times it's used there is to do with life, right? What it means, literally means, when somebody assists you to have a better life or wishes you to have a better life, you wish or you respond in a better way to that person, right? I'm not saying that by extension it could be greeting, I'm not saying that. But literally that's what it means, okay? So is that the greeting that Allah is talking about when He says they don't greet you with the greeting that Allah gives you, right? So, but I'm not saying, now if you look elsewhere, 24-27, page 903, Allah says when you visit somebody, you must say Salaam Alaikum to the people who are there, etc., etc. So that's not written off, but I am just concerned about this 486, all right? And even when you meet somebody, your enemies during war, and your enemies greet you, you must respond also with a salam. Okay? So that's what I take it as. So then it says, why does not Allah, then they ask, these people who are doing the wrong thing, why does not Allah chastise us for what we say? No? You punish us now. Right? Hell is enough for them, they shall enter it, and evil is their resort. Time, Allah says, time will come when all this is going to happen, they will pay. Again, counseling, the next verse, secret counsel, verse 10, right? The verse 11 is quite interesting. Here, there's a direction towards community relationships, right? Especially when we are having a consultative process and somebody else joins us, right? Now, Allah doesn't say, He says, oh, you who believe, and this important thing is that we as believers are addressed. When it is said to you, make room in your assemblies, right? Allow other people to join you, right? So assuming we're having a discussion for the improvement of this center, allow others to join. Don't make it an exclusive and elitist thing, right? Allow others to join you. Make ample room. Allah will give you ample, right? So, and in the discussion, in the process, if the leader, say the chairperson, who says, rise, you must rise. So sit, you must sit. Follow the instruction of the leadership that you have appointed. Right? Atiullah wa atiur Rasul wa uli amri minkum. That's a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also. That those that you are appointed from amongst yourself to conduct your affairs, what's the point if you're not going to obey them? Right? And for example, I don't know who the officials are of this center, assuming Osman and Riyaz and Nazir, these are the chief officials, they are being given the responsibility to run this place, and we don't want to obey or follow or help, then what's the point? Okay? Then Allah says, and then rise up. Allah will exalt those of you. Just look at the word Allah is using here. Allah will exalt those of you who believe, and those who are given knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of running the affairs. Right? And they are وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْإِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. Now, in any organization, there's always people who know a little bit more than the other. There's always. Who can be given responsibilities to take and run with the project. Okay, that's how I see it. Others may see it slightly differently, but I think the words used are very, very clear. O you who believe, verse 12, when you consult the Nabi, the Apostle, the Rasul, then offer something in charity before your consultation. So give a little bit of sadaqah. Right? What's the purpose of that sadaqah? Right? You know, sadaqah actually means that you humble yourself. You know, when you go and feed the poor people, you are linking yourself with them. So you're leveling the playing field. Now, here Allah is in reference to the Nabi, but the same thing happens in the leadership of the community. I mean, if you want the community to succeed, you got to level the playing field. Everybody must be seen to be at the same level. Right? That is better for you and purer. But if you do not find, then surely Allah, so if you can't afford it, then that's a different matter. Do you fear that you will not be able to give in sadaqah before your consultation? So when you do not do it, and Allah has turned to you mercifully, then keep up again. Aqimu salat wa atu zakat wa ati'u Allah wa rasul. And follow. Obey Allah and obey what the Nabi tells you to do, or what the leadership expects you to do. Right? In accordance with Quranic principles. As long as the leadership are in line with the Quranic principles of Aqimu Salat wa Atu Zakat, right? Then you are allowed to follow them. Okay. And obey Allah and His Nabi, and Allah is aware of what you do. The next one, verse 3, which is section 3. Have you not seen those who befriend, and this is quite important, it's actually frightening. Have you not seen those who befriend a people with whom Allah is angry? Allah is wrathful. Now, I have a little bit of a problem with this kind of translation, although the Arabic talks about ghadab, right? And in Surah Fatiha, غَيْرَ الْمَغْضُوبِ, elsewhere in the Quran, the la'natullahi ala al-kazibin, the curse of Allah, and similar, and then Allah is pleased, Allah is displeased. These fall into the category of what? Emotions. Right? And Allah is not an emotional being. Right? Allah is not. In fact, Allah says in the Quran that 1959 and 45:23 that you should not make decisions under the stress of emotion. Right? Allah compares it almost to shirk. So if Allah doesn't want us to make important decisions when we are emotional, then Allah can't be an emotional being. Right? So those words need to be understood slightly differently. Right? Everything in Allah's creation is cause and effect. Right? So there are laws that Allah has created for every eventuality. Right? And some laws are such that we as human beings will see it to be punishment in anger. You know, we'll assume that. Now, just think, if we do some horrible thing and Allah really gets angry, right? This universe will become dust. Allah will finish this universe in His anger. So it's not that Allah gets angry, it's our understanding of that. And I must admit that I have not really come to grips of finding an alternative discussion or explanation for that. Right? Then if we look at verse 16, they make their oaths to serve as a cover. So they turn away from Allah's way, therefore they shall have an abasing chastisement. I mean, Allah has, the people who are in the habit of taking oaths, you know, Qassam, man, Qassam, I did this, and Qassam, I did that. They are so much in the habit, when they're in front of Allah, they say, Qasam Allah, I didn't know about it. You know? So, this, and it's very important. Therefore, they shall have an abasing chastisement because they want to take their oaths with them in front of Allah. And of course, again, when we talk about Psalm 592, chapter 5, verse 92, page 270, if you take an oath without meaning it, you know, in the daily life, Allah says, okay, you know, forgive you. But if you meaningfully take an oath, again, there's an expiation for that oath. Just look at, let's look at that page 270. You see, we tend to take these things, not important, you know, they're not showing, but it is. If it's in the Quran, what page I said, 270?
92. 92.
Yeah. Verse 92, 1592. Allah will not call you to account for what is futile in your oaths, but He will call you to account for your deliberate oath. I mean, you know, Aussie is an auditor, right? Assuming he was auditing some municipality and all these officials there, take an oath, we did that thing the right way. Aussie saying, no man, there's evidence here, right? So those kinds of oath, right? For expiation and feed 10 indigent persons, right? On a scale of the average for the food of your families, or clothe them or give a slave his freedom. You see now, you can't just buy half a loaf of bread and go and feed them. If you are in the habit, or we are in the habit of having mema nakni for lunch every day, or and biryani for supper every day, then that's the food you're going to give them. You're not going to give them any lower standard of food, right? Or then you have to free a slave, and you know, we keep finding this, there are no slaves. There are no slaves in the world today. The 60 million people don't have food 3 times a day in the world. There's 10 million people in South Africa don't have a job. And we say there's no slaves. Of course, there are people who promote a certain kind of idea, right? And I was told that personally by one Jamaat brother that, you know what, we should go to Syria and marry all those girls, you know. They got no parents, wartime and all. I said, I'm ready to go with you, but let's start with Sudan. You see? So all the pretty grey-eyed girls in Syria, but all the dark-skinned ones in Sudan, we're not interested in. Okay? So we have to have a standard, which Allah will be happy with, right? And then, of course, Psalm for 3 days, expiation oath. Now here, I will accept the fact that you stay hungry for 3 days, right? But in the 3 days, you make sure, or thereafter, that you do not take oaths just willy-nilly, all right? That is the expiation for the, for the oaths you have sworn. But keep to your oaths. Now, you see, if you have taken an oath, although you've been punished for it, right, and you didn't mean it, you meant it and you took people for a ride, you know, Allah says, now you keep to that oath, right? So what it means is, whatever the damage that was done because of your oath, you have to put right. Right? For example, I mean, if somebody borrows 100 rand from you, right, what is the buying power of that 100 rand if he gives it to you a year later? Okay, so that sort of principle. Then Allah says, neither the wealth nor the children shall avail them aught against Allah. They are the inmates of the fire, therein they shall be there forever. Right? Now, here, the next couple of verses, Allah talks about Hizbul Shaitan and Hizbullah, the party of Shaitan and the party of Allah. right? And the fact that as for those in opposition to Allah and His Nabi, they shall be among the most abased. And we get this quite often that, those rules, those laws were okay, when the Nabi was around. No, today they don't apply. We hear that again and again. Allah has written down, right? And look at the Arabic. Kataballahu, that it is ordained by Allah, right? It is been ordained by Allah, that most certainly, and it will most certainly prevail. Okay? And Allah says, I and my Nabi, surely Allah is strong and mighty. Nothing will stop him. Right? This is the implementation of the law of Allah. Nothing will come in front of it. The last verse I'll read. You shall not find a people who believe in Allah and the latter day befriending those who are in opposition to Allah. Right? Very important. Look, let's just read that verse again. You shall not find La tajidu qawman yu'minuna billahi wal yawmil akhir. You will not find a people befriending those who are enemies of Allah. Right? Befriending those who act in opposition to Allah and His Nabi. Even though, now look at this. Even though they were their own fathers, right? Their own sons or their brothers or their family members, kinsfolk, these are they into whose hearts He has impressed faith and whom He has strengthened with an inspiration from Him. So now, of course, Allah says in the Quran that though you will find closer to you in friendship the Jews and the Christians, right? See? Doesn't say mushriks, right? Doesn't say mushriks. Because the Jews and the Christians have a belief, somewhat clouded, but they have a belief in Allah, right?
It's only the Christians.
The Jews are your, the mushriks are the next verse as well.
Sorry?
It's only the Christians work. The rest is the Tajid and the
Yeah.
Aqrabahum work.
Then elsewhere Allah says, you can't even trust them, right? So we need to be careful. Again, we have to take care of our neighbors if something is wrong there. If our neighbor is a Christian or even a mushrik, what's our responsibility, right? So we need to be careful about acquaintance and friendship. And friendship means here, you give all your secrets to them. They know everything about you, right? And if any of you lived in Chatsworth, when Chatsworth first came about in Durban, it was the most awesome thing for a Tamil to elope with a Muslim girl. That was their aim and objective, right? One of my niece, it happened to her. And then they will refuse, no matter what you do, they will refuse to convert, right? So these are things that we need to be aware of. How far do we go with our friendship? And right now, if we look at what is going on in Kashmir, in India, Yemen, all over, right? Our Saudis, Allahu Akbar, they have signed a contract to invest 75 billion, not million, billion dollars in the oil company in India. How do we accept that? Are they aware of this verse of the Quran? How much can that $75 billion help the Muslim world? Right? And the Saudis are doing it, and yet we're going there all the time to make Hajj. El Sabis? Alright, so I think there again we need to be aware of that, and who are our friends we need to be aware of. We're not saying that we must make enemies with everybody. Who are the awliya Allah, the wali, the friends of Allah, and who are the wali shaitan, the friends of shaitan.
Hizbu Shaitan.
Right? I could give you references, we won't go there now. So these are the verses. These are there, and he will cause them to enter gardens beneath which rivers flow, abiding therein. Those who are restricted, those who follow Allah's law, and they have their space, right? With those who are enemies of Allah. Allah is well pleased with them. Radiyallahu anhu wa radu an. Ulaika hizbullah. This is the party of Allah. We discussed the Hizbul Shaitan. Now this is the party of Allah. Right? Allah inna hizballahi humul muflihun. And the party of Allah will be the successful one. Jazakallah. That's the end of the surah, chapter.
Jazakallah.